Welcome back to Bet to the North, where we make you money. Still, for now, Doug Lesmerises and Tyler Shoemaker ahead on our $5,000 real money bankroll tissue. Real money. Are we the only show in the country where we bet real money on college football, not just fake stuff? Like, people don't do this.
Not the way we're doing it. I mean,
no.
Obviously, I hope that people that are giving out picks are actually invested somewhat themselves, because I think that would be a little disingenuous. But yeah, I mean, we're putting up our company's money for, on our bets, and so far so good.
So far so good. So thanks to our company for doing that. $5,000 start. We are currently at $6,244.72, which we will take. That still is up like a decent, I don't know what, like that's up. I mean, like it's ahead of even what would be like a good return, right? To be up $1,200 on a $5,000 bankroll.
I mean, yeah, we're up over 20%, right?
Look at you with the fast math. I was going to leave that to you. I was like, we're up some kind of percent. I'll let the math guy figure that out. I would just say it feels like we're up. I got good vibes about how up we are. You put a number on it.
Very, very good vibes. And, we got back on track. So the vibes are as high as they've been all season right now. Hopefully we can keep it rolling.
Yeah. So again, $5,000 start. 62-44-72 right now. That includes winning last week, our $500 bet, where I must confess that I was conflicted, Tishu, because we played the under 45.5 on the Houston-Kansas State game. And going into the fourth quarter, it was 19-10 Kansas State. And I was like, we are sailing, right? Is that a pretty 29 heading into a fourth quarter on a 45.5 total? I felt pretty good about that. Right?
I did. Yeah. I tuned into that second half. I was watching some other games throughout the day, but I tuned into that second half, the fourth quarter in particular. And I'm with you. I felt really good. And then when Avery Johnson threw that interception that set Houston up with a short field, I was like, all right, here we go. This is how we die.
Yeah. So the problem was that Houston scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and Kansas State got the ball back. And I, as a bastion of Northern football, was faced with the dilemma of, if Kansas State comes back and wins this game, we lose our $500 bet, or I'm rooting to win the $500 bet and for a Northern power to be upset by a team from Texas. So I just sat it out and left it up to the football gods, TCU. And the football gods decided that Kansas State would go down and we would win money.
They did. I was like literally standing up in my living room watching the ending of that game. Like, come on, please just let this come home for us.
Can I make a guess here? Do you always root for the money?
Oh, yeah. I mean, what else is there to root for?
I know. So it was just like, because it's like cruising. I thought it's like 19-10, maybe Kansas State scores one more and we get like a nice 26-10 Kansas State win and a smooth under, and instead we had to fight it a little bit, but we did hit it. That means that we are 6-4 on the year with our $500 real money bets. We are up 873.05 on the $500 bets. We are up 371.67 on our plus money swings. On our overall best bets, last week you were 2-1. I was 1-2. My big Army play last week, we got off the show and it was like, yeah, Army's quarterback's not playing. I was like, what? So that hurt. And they still, I think I took them like minus 21.5, and they still won 20-3. Yeah. Like convincingly. Air Force didn't do anything, but they just couldn't have enough offense with their backup QB. So 16-17 for you, 14-13 for me. Up 873.05 on the $500 bets, up 371.67 on the plus money swings. And our plus money swing last week, in the end, I wish we had maybe gone a different way with it. We played a 3-play money line. Well, two regular bets in a money line. And one of the bets that you were nervous about, you were correct to be nervous about, but we missed another bet in it too. So we went 1 for 3 on our parlay. We had an Iowa State money line. They lost by 1 to Texas Tech. We had Nebraska minus 6.5. They lost the game as a favorite. That didn't come close. But then, like, I wish we just would have played your Vanderbilt upset pick, because we put Vanderbilt +7 in the parlay when you liked them as an underdog, and they won outright, and that would have been a nice little cash for us. Did you play Vanderbilt on a money line in your own life?
I didn't play like a full unit. I think I may have sprinkled it in on a small money line parlay of like 2 or 3 underdogs, but I didn't go all in like I should have either on them. I said this on the show. I said this to you as we were kind of discussing our plays last week. Nebraska, like that, the setup on that Nebraska game just felt very. And we had a game like that we discussed for this week as well. I don't know if you ended up taking that, but the vibes were not good with Nebraska. So I'm not surprised to see that part didn't happen. The Iowa State thing is just crazy. Like, I cannot believe that they lost. Like, I mean, I think I had them projected to win by like 19. If I recall, the spread was like 13.5 and they lost outright. I mean, that was crazy.
Yeah. So I at least chickened out on that. I chickened out on Iowa State minus 13.5 and said we just took the money line and then they lost by 1. So what are you going to do? If your question is there a bet that Doug is vibing on that you're saying no, that Doug is going to play anyway? The answer to that is, of course I did.
Okay. Okay. I didn't want to ruin it, but okay.
We didn't bet $500 of our company's money on it, but I bet Doug money on it. It's a Doug $2 special that I shall be recommending for our viewers shortly. Let's start with what we actually decided upon for our $500 bet. And we are going back to that leprechaun well. We're reaching down in the well and we're plucking out as many. We need 26 leprechauns this time because we're taking Notre Dame minus 26 at minus 110 odds. Means we bet $500 to win, get like $954 back against Florida State. When I picked this show with Bill on the Thursday show, I picked 51-15. I do think one of the things, which is a 36-point spread, so your numbers like this, my vibes like this. I do think from a vibes perspective, Tishu, now that the playoff rankings are out, there's a couple plays that I like this week where there are playoff contenders who I do think are in style point time. And they're not guessing anymore. They know where they are in the rankings. They can see, okay, if we went out, we're this, we're that, or if we take a loss. But like, I just think it might be time to really show who you are now that Ward Manuel's getting on TV every Tuesday night and talking about you. So that factored a little bit into this for me, that I think Notre Dame wants to win by 4 touchdowns against Florida State. Not just because this is big lines, right? We talk about this. It's not just can you, it's do you want to? Notre Dame wants to. They're 10th in the playoff rankings. They're okay. But they could use a little style. It wouldn't hurt to have a little style. Why do you think this will actually happen, that Notre Dame has the ability to drop a bomb on the Seminoles in South Bend?
Well, for one, I was just looking this up as you were talking. Florida State is 2-6 against the spread this year, failing to cover by 11.4 points per game. I mean, there's always like a team or two that, my numbers and odds makers, like you just have a hard time getting a grasp on, like you just way over or underestimated them coming into the season. But I would have to go back and look. I don't know that I've seen a team that's just been this awful that had such high expectations. I mean, it's crazy. I project this game 33.5. So, still getting a full touchdown of value here. Again, I think I said this the last time we bet on Notre Dame. I think the Northern Illinois loss just kind of looms around them in terms of the betting market and how people kind of perceive them. Obviously, the committee has to take that into consideration because it is part of their resume. But from a power rating standpoint, from a predictive standpoint, like that game doesn't. Honestly, like, you hate to say that. Like, I'm sure people are going to roll their eyes at this, but that game really doesn't matter, because that is not indicative of who Notre Dame is. It's such an outlier. In 6 of 8 Florida State games against Power 4 opponents so far this year, they've had a negative rating by my number, so below average. Their average rating in those games is minus 5.6. Notre Dame's average against Power 4 opponents, 32.5.
Oh, wow.
So this has this is just a recipe for just blowout city. And like you said, when you factor in that Notre Dame, may need and want to get some style points here, I think they can pretty much name their score here.
Prime time. The committee watches everybody, but like, this is a showcase opportunity for a team that's just had a weird schedule, that they have Florida State and USC left on the schedule. Neither of those teams are what people thought they would be. They end up playing 2 service academies, and they're actually the better teams. But this is a spot. This is a spot for Notre Dame to show what they can do. And they're coming off a bye. And the last time out, they took it to Navy. Now, Navy turned the ball over a million times in that game, and that certainly helped. But I've talked myself into the idea that 26 isn't even that much. That if Notre Dame wins 35-7, I'd be like, okay. Like, I wouldn't be like, wow, Notre Dame. But I think Notre Dame might win like 52-10. And then we're in smooth sailing territory. And I just don't think they'll take the foot off the gas. I don't think that's where they are right now. I think they're in pedal down mode.
Yep. Agreed. I think this is going to be a blowout.
All right. That's our $500 bet. And then we're taking a parlay, and I named our parlay. I'm calling this the Kirbo parlay because we are betting against two of our favorite guys. We thought, should we bet against Georgia or should we bet against Clemson? And then Tishu's the kind of guy that you want to go to the ice cream shop with because you're thinking, should I get vanilla or should I get chocolate? And Tishu, you are a 2-scoop kind of fella. So we are double scooping on the Kirbo parlay. We are taking Ole Miss plus 2.5 against Georgia, and we are taking Virginia Tech plus 6.5 against Clemson. Because one of the things here is we were talking about a money line, just like an upset pick, because we've got to get plus odds on the plus money swing. I do like both of these as that, if you want to take that option. Ole Miss on the money line is plus 114. Virginia Tech on the money line is plus 190. The deal with Virginia Tech is both their running back and quarterback have been hurt. Kyron Drones, their quarterback, he's almost certainly back. Bashan Tootin, who has destroyed people at times this year, is probably back. So the 6.5 that we're getting with Virginia Tech in this parlay, we aren't taking the money line, gives us a little wiggle room there. I do think Virginia Tech can hang even if Tootin doesn't play. If Drones and Tootin both play, I love this. And then I just think Ole Miss has a chance to put up some points on Georgia, and Carson Beck has been terrible like the last month. So you and I agreed on this. I mostly liked it because I came up with the idea that Kirby and Dabo can be combined into a name. And I didn't think Dabby was as good. I was like, Dabby, what's the swin, the smart swin? And I was like, no, Kirbo. So I'm going to be, and these are all at the same time. They're both 3:30 Eastern starts. It's Kirbo time. I'm going to enjoy having some money while rooting for these two ding-dongs to lose. But what's the math here?
First of all, you know what we need for this, like for a graphic? We need the Turbo Man doll from Jingle All the Way with Dabo and Kirby's face on it and someone to caption it, it's Kirbo time. Someone please make that happen because that would be
Kirbo time.
That would be perfect.
Oh God, it's
I like
Kirbo
this.
time.
I actually project Ole Miss to win this game now by a half
you
point.
do.
So I basically make this, a pick 'em. So I've got Ole Miss minus a half point in this game, and I make the line Clemson -5 here. So we're still getting some value there on the spread with Virginia Tech. But honestly, I think even I am maybe a little low on Virginia Tech because you weigh the recent games more, and they didn't have, like you said, they didn't have their best players last game. Against Syracuse when they lost in overtime, and Syracuse is not very good. So losing to them, having a bad game against them, and they gave up 31 in regulation.
Just watch it. Watch it. Virginia Tech's a border school. Syracuse is of the North. Watch it with the orange slander there. That was like just a stray. The orange caught a stray there. They only have 2 losses. That's a 6-2 team. But anyway, continue.
Okay. Well, from a power rating perspective, they're not very good. So
see, it's like one of those things. If you put math in it, you can say whatever you want.
With all due respect, they're not very good. But no, I think bottom line, I think Virginia Tech's undervalued here. I would like this even more had Clemson not lost last week because a loss kind of refocuses you. So I would like it more had Clemson not laid an egg against Louisville last week. But
yeah,
to take that loss in a game they were really not all that competitive in, and now you got to go on the road. Virginia Tech's a great environment.
Yes, it is.
I've been there. They have a great home field advantage. I don't know what happened to the Clemson offense. They ended up scoring 20-something, but really in non-garbage time, they had 7 points. So I'm very, very curious to see how that goes. And the defense, I've got, Clemson's usually a top 5, top 10 defense in my numbers. They're 25th. So Virginia Tech's going to be able to score here. So I guess, the question is, are they going to be able to win the game? But I do think they can keep it within a touchdown.
So we just, with the injury uncertainty, we weren't willing to go on the money line for Virginia Tech. I mean, we certainly could have gone money line on Ole Miss. Landis and I on the Thursday show both picked Ole Miss to win this game. Again, I think you can't ignore the turnover problems that Carson Beck has had. And I think Ole Miss is a fraud, but they do have a pretty good passing attack. I mean, like, and there's some injury stuff here that could factor in one way or the other, but I like this play. And it's going to be fun to root for. We're getting it at plus 264. So we're taking the points, we're doing a parlay, and we're getting much better odds than if we played either of them on the money line. So I'm very happy to take this swing here. And I think we really do have a chance here. But even like right now, the warm feeling I have inside, isn't that worth more than money, Tishu? That we just sit here right now and say the word Kirbo?
Well,
anti-Kirbo, and that's worth $100.
That does feel very good. I don't know that that's going to help, put like a down payment on your house or anything. So no. I would still like to have the money, but yeah, but no. To put a bow on that game, like I'm really glad that the college football playoff rankings came out this week, because generally when that happens like that, you can kind of then predict like, okay, Ole Miss is ranked. What are they ranked? 16th. Georgia's 3rd. So 90% of bettors are going to be like, well, I mean, Georgia's number 3 team in the country playing number 16. They're only laying 2.5. Like, let's hammer that. And again, like I mentioned with one of my plays last week, the fact that this line, anytime it's touched 3, it's gone back to 2.5. Like, they're way more comfortable taking Georgia minus 2.5 money than they are taking Ole Miss plus 3 money. So I really like this from vibes, reading the betting market, and my numbers. I think it's a great play.
And silly words. Because this is, again, we're doing this for charity. All the money at the end is going to go to charity. So if we lose on this, then I would just say to a hungry child, I would just say, isn't Kirbo a silly word? Sorry, we don't have $100 to give you, but Kirbo is a silly word, isn't it? No, we're going to give great money to charity regardless of what happens, but I do like this play. All right, let's get to my best bets first, actually, because my first best bet that I am so excited to get to is the best bet that I sent, like, hey, what do you think about this for the $500 bet? And I was like, man, Tishu's not responding. And then I got like a 900-word response that was, to boil it down, it was no Doug. So it's Minnesota -6 at Rutgers, -110 on DraftKings. I really thought this was in contention because you sent me a slate for the $500 possibilities. I returned a slate. You literally rejected everything on my slate except Minnesota Rutgers. So I was like, okay, I guess it's Minnesota Rutgers. And then you rejected that. So I was like, okay, I think you just set me up there. I just think Minnesota's offense has really come into its own and Rutgers has just been struggling. So maybe now, like, this is payback time. Like, Rutgers, is Rutgers really this bad? Is Minnesota really this good? But also, like, sometimes you explain, don't be afraid of the facts. Don't be waiting for the other shoe to drop. So I just think Minnesota, I'm getting it under a touchdown. And when I first looked at it, it was 6.5, and now it's 6. So I'll take it. I like this. You're a little iffy. Why?
Yeah. Strangely enough, I mean, my numbers agree with you actually on this, which is what started the conversation in the first place. I actually project Minnesota -9 here, but there's something with this. The initial line movement went towards Rutgers. I think it dipped down to 5.5 right after opening. And I mentioned this on the show last week. This is really something I've been paying attention to, like how my numbers align with that initial sharp move. Yeah. And it has been money. Like, I had my best week of the season last week, following, this, like, okay, I'm only going to bet the games that the initial line went towards me. The ones that went against me the last few weeks are hitting like roughly 33%. Like my numbers are only going like 33% in those games. So this is one of those. And I just get the same vibe that I had with Nebraska UCLA last week when UCLA wins outright. And honestly, Iowa, I wanted to make Iowa a best bet this week because my numbers love them. I did bet them, but I didn't make it. I'm not giving it out on the show because I'm kind of getting a little nervous. Like, market's kind of telling me something similar there. So that's why I don't like it. Oddly enough, you're going with the math and I'm going with the vibes here.
Look at that.
I don't get a good vibe from this game. I think this is like a Greg Schiano special of now he's going to pull the upset. PJ Fleck's going to lay an egg with expectations.
It's hard. Like, Minnesota's won 4 in a row. Rutgers has lost 4 in a row. So that's a fact. Minnesota's a couple, especially the first couple in that winning streak, were really close. That were comebacks at the end. And even the win against Illinois that they just got, like, Illinois was in the red zone. down 8 with a chance to score and go for 2 and tie the game late. So they're not throttling people. If this was over a touchdown, I wouldn't take it. But the fact that I think like a 24-17, 27-20 kind of stuff seems very possible to me. And I just really do like the way that Max Brosmer and Daniel Jackson and Darius Taylor playing the offensive line has come around. So I'll still take it. I'm not doing it. I'm not sticking this in your face, Tishu. I'm just believing in Max Brosmer, and I wouldn't let you shake me off of it. But you did shake us off. So it's a $2 bet instead of a $500 bet. So that's I
okay.
Yield to you $498 worth. So I'm Doug. You can't tell me what to do. I mean, you can decrease my bet 1,000,000%, but you can't stop me. So I will lose this $2 just to prove a point. All right. Second one, I also was maybe going to push hard for this. Your numbers didn't like it as much, so we didn't do it. Indiana minus 14.5 at home versus Michigan. This is another style point game to me. I think Indiana is a little lower in the playoff rankings than they would like to be. They're 8th, and this is an opportunity to give themselves some wiggle room if they don't go 12-0, if they lose to Ohio State in a couple weeks. It's a statement game. It's still a blue blood. It's still a defending national champs coming into Bloomington. I think they can win big, and I think they want to win big. So I'm pretty comfortable taking the Hoosiers minus 14.5 at minus 108.
Yeah, I think I might have accidentally lied to you on this one because my sheet is like all color coded and everything, which like helps keep me organized. But at a glance, I misread this. My number actually does agree with basically everything I just said for the last game. Just copy and paste for this game. My number is Indiana minus 20. So my number does agree with you here, but the initial sharp move went to, so it opened at Bookmaker. It opened at 14 and immediately went to 13.5, which to me is like, okay, red flag. Like that's the only reason I didn't personally bet it this week. I did bet Indiana last week, despite like some red flags. They seem to be a team that has overcome red flags for like a month straight now. So, what does the betting market know? And I agree. Kursignetti does strike me as the type of guy that, like, if he can get them, he's going to get the style points.
Yes.
But Indiana's strength of schedule, I know this is like beating a dead horse. Their strength of schedule is not particularly good, especially from like playing a monster defensive line standpoint.
Yep.
I want to just watch this game, take the data point of like, okay, can Indiana's front handle Michigan's front? That'll be informative going forward, but I'm sitting this one out. But again, the number does agree with you here.
All right, my next best bet, it hinges a bit on an injury, but I still kind of like it anyway. But the number is also moving against me. I'll take Army minus 4 at North Texas at minus 110 on DraftKings. Last week when I lost on Army, Bryson Daly, the great quarterback for Army, did not play. Jeff Monken, the head coach this week, has indicated that he thinks that Daly has a decent chance to play. North Texas puts up a ton of points. Landis really made this point on our Thursday show. North Texas basically wants to play about as fast as anybody, and Army wants to play about as slow as anybody. So it's an interesting contrast of styles. I just think Army has smothered people, and North Texas got blown out by the best team they played this year. So to only give 4 for Army, like you're telling, like one touchdown with what Army has done most of the year, I feel really good about it. The injury thing I wouldn't ever put $500 on this, where it's like, I think the starting quarterback will be back from injury, but I'm not 100% sure. But if I knew for sure the starting quarterback was playing and you still could get Army for under a touchdown, then I would have been thinking about it for $500. What do you think about this Army play?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this for the $500 play, and if we had certainty that he was going to play, I think this definitely would have been in contention for that. I don't know if we liked it more than Notre Dame or not, but we both did like this. So I don't blame you at all for taking this. My number on the game is 13.5. So, but obviously that hinges a lot on him playing because their offense did not light it up last week the way they have, with Daly in the lineup. So yeah, big what if there. But no, I don't blame you at all for taking the 4 here.
North Texas is going to score a couple points. They're going to be like Air Force last week and score 3. So like Army's going to have to do a little something. But I would just look at this and think, Army can get to 35 or 38, and I would feel very good about covering this 4-point number then. Last one is I think LSU is going to beat Alabama, so I'll take LSU +3 at home. That's -115 on DraftKings. I don't like Kalen DeBoer as the first-year Alabama coach going on the road into these tough SEC environments. I don't think he's ready for it, and I don't think he's going to have his team ready, and I think LSU is going to win, but I'll take the 3. And it was at 2.5, I think, it moved to 3, so I was happy to get the 3. What do your numbers say about this? I'm really curious to hear.
Yeah, I wanted to bet Alabama on Sunday when I updated my numbers and was waiting on opening lines to come out. I was like, all right, I've got Alabama -8 here.
Wow.
Let me look to get Bama. But again, the bookmaker, the initial sharp move went your way.
Okay.
I think it went from 2.5 to 2 actually towards LSU before the rest of the market came in and bet it up to 3. So I'm staying off of this game. Again, my numbers are against you here, but the market is with you. So I'm just very curious to see how this plays out. I think, gun to my head, if I had to make a play here, I think I would take. Now that I've really thought about it, I think you make a good point about Kalen DeBoer going on the road, to Death Valley. I know game day is going to be there, I think, for the first time in 5 years. So it should be a pretty crazy environment. I think I would lean LSU here. Okay. And again, just on Kings of the North, it feels good to bet against Alabama and Georgia. What a week. We're betting against Alabama, Georgia, and Clemson. Let's get to your best bets. This is a banger. Best game of the weekend, UConn at UAB. But this is the thing. This is where the money is made because a guy like me doesn't care about this game. But Tishu's numbers care about everyone equally. Right, Tishu? That's right. I mean, who's not excited for UConn UAB this week?
I mean, it's just a classic. The rivalry goes way back between the Dragons and the Wolves. I don't even know who these teams are. I'm just trying to guess the nickname by the pictures on our screen. Dragon versus Wolf is actually very Kings of the North. I maybe should embrace this a little bit more. Oh, we're going to slay some dragons down there. You have UConn -6.5 against UAB at -112 on DraftKings. So yeah, this is our sword dog slayer, but for 1 week it could be a dragon slayer.
I like it. UAB's logo kind of looks like that thing on the original Mario on Nintendo that I don't think it's actually a dragon, but they look very similar.
Yeah.
So I project 9.5 UConn -9.5 in this game.
Okay.
Again, a thing I like to do, especially at this point in the season, is look at how you've played against similar level opponents throughout this year. UConn's been 9.5 points above average against G5 teams this year. UAB's average grade has been -15. So UConn's been almost 25 points better against G5 opponents this year. So I'm on alert for a UConn blowout here. I think.
Okay.
UConn, because they've just sucked for ever, I think people just kind of write them off. And again, like you said, nobody really cares. But they've actually been sneaky solid for what they are this year. They've been a team I've bet on a couple of times and they've covered and they've put up some points. And UAB's defense is 120th in my numbers. So UConn's going to be able to score a ton. It's just going to be a matter of can they get a stop or two? And I think they'll be able to.
Yeah. UConn 6-3, UAB 2-6, and you're only given less than a touchdown. So I think this might be a $2 Doug special as well. You've convinced me. Plus, basketball season has started, so everybody in Connecticut is all fired up. San Jose State at Oregon State. You're taking San Jose State +3 at -115 on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, this is again. I couldn't tell you 3 players in this game.
Yeah,
this is mostly a numbers play, a little bit of a vibe play. I like getting 3 here, the key number. It's gone to 2.5 at some books. I basically project this game a pick 'em. I project Oregon State as a half-point favorite here. Oregon State is not very good. Obviously, they turned a whole lot over this year, lost their coach, lost pretty much everyone that mattered from the team last year from a production standpoint. San Jose State's actually been 5 points better against similar competition this year. And Ken Niumatalolo, as a underdog, is a coach I want to bet on. Going back to his days at Navy, he's one of those coaches. It's like, all right, if he's a favorite, I actually bet on him as a favorite earlier this year, and they blew it. But as an underdog, great. So that's kind of a cherry on top here. So again, mostly a numbers play, a little bit of a vibe play for me here on San Jose State.
All right. I'm super curious for this explanation. Boston College -2 at home versus Syracuse. Why do you like the Eagles here? They've moved the ball. They've had some crazy turnovers. When Bill and I talked about this on Thursday, both quarterbacks in this game are super capable of having crazy turnovers. They're also super capable of making plays. So I do think this is kind of like a variance game a little bit. Bill and I both picked Syracuse. You're taking Boston College, giving points at -110.
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons here. One, I mean, from a number standpoint, I project Boston College -6. So
okay,
there's that. Boston College has been 8 points better against Power 4 teams this year than Syracuse. Syracuse actually has a negative rating, average rating against Power 4 teams this year. And then really from a vibe standpoint, if you will, I think this line's a little bit inflated because of the Syracuse win that we talked about earlier against Virginia Tech last week, who was missing its two best players. And also, like, when you think about Syracuse's season, like, they won in overtime last week against a pretty good Virginia Tech team missing its two best players.
Yep.
They won in overtime against UNLV because the UNLV linebacker dropped the Kyle McCord interception and, a questionable call late in that game. Like, Syracuse has kind of benefited from a lot of fluky, weird situations this year. So I don't even know. I've got them pretty low, and I think they actually are probably worse than that at their core. So I'm going to ride with Boston College here. The market's moving with me here, moving towards 2.5. So I like the Eagles here.
We talked about on the Thursday show 9 different games between our northern teams this week, and this is one of them. So this is a great northern ACC matchup. Yeah, no, I get Boston College has just had games where they've turned the ball over and taken themselves out of an opportunity to win. They played in some weird weather. They had a huge comeback against Western Kentucky. They're kind of been all over the place. And then Syracuse, I do think this is a little bit of a hard game to get a handle on, because I think both teams have had some wild swings, most of them turnover related, and both have first year head coaches. And so I don't know that you have, even what you said about Ken Niumatalolo, you can feel good about, Fran Brown's never been a head coach before. Bill O'Brien hasn't been a head coach in college in a decade, right? So there's a lot of so I'm excited to watch it, but I'm super curious about how this goes. All right, last bet for you.
One last point on that one. Boston College is coming off of a bye here. Meanwhile, Syracuse went to overtime last week, so I do think that's I don't think that's make or break, but I do think that's a slight advantage to Boston College in that game.
No, good point. Last one's also a northern bet for you. It's Cincinnati, West Virginia. This is at Cincinnati, under 56.5. And I think the reason that I like this the most is that West Virginia fired its defensive coordinator, and I think that might be a little boost. I'm expecting a little better play from the West Virginia defense as a result. Bill and I, just by happenstance, when we picked our scores for this game, both picked a total of 52. So we agree with this under. Why do you like this under?
Yeah, I projected at 55. So, 55 is a key number. So, and then 56 would be the next key number. So we're getting, some good, even though it doesn't seem like it because it's only 1.5, we're actually getting good value on the number here based on the key numbers. So in this situation, with West Virginia as an underdog, Cincinnati is a favorite this year. The under is 7-3 in those games. So, when Cincinnati is able to kind of dictate the tempo of the game, they tend to go under. And conversely, when West Virginia can't dictate the game, those games have gone under. So I really like this. Market agreed with me here. It's dropping. I won't be surprised if by kickoff this is 54.5 or something under 55. So getting it at 56.5. I would play it to 55.5 probably. But obviously if you can get 56 or better, that would be ideal.
The other thing too is West Virginia will start Nico Marchiol, their backup quarterback, and they just want him to be efficient. And I think they just play kind of a different game when it's not Garrett Green. It actually might be a little more successful game, but I think there's less variance there. Garrett Green is just a guy who might rip off a 50-yard run, who might chuck a ball down the field, and all of a sudden he's blowing your under because he's Garrett Green, be it Garrett Green. And I don't even think that West Virginia wants to try to play that way with a younger quarterback. So I think West Virginia will tamp it down offensively. And then also it's going to be, they're not going to change their scheme, but you got a new play caller on defense. That's going to be something that Cincinnati has to adjust to. What they've seen on film is going to be a little bit different. And so I think there's a couple factors here that would push you towards an under. So I like this. So maybe we'll get a $2 Doug special on this before the line gets any lower. Okay. We're still winning. T-Shoe, we're still winning money. I don't know what to tell people. Facts are facts.
It's week 11 and we're 60% on our $500 bets. I mean, I don't know what more you could ask for if you told us that going into the season, like, hey, week 11, you guys are going to be 60%, and you're also going to be up money on your plus money swings. Like, yeah, I mean, you sign up for that 100 times out of 100.
I mean, to be honest, when we started 3-0, I was kind of hoping we'd be at 10 grand by now, but what are you going to do? So again, this is a vibe show and a math show. The vibe of this show is like, why would I listen to anything the guy in the Jonas Brothers shirt says? But the math of the show tells you we're up $1,200. So who knew? All right. We do it every Friday morning with the great Tyler Shoemaker. Thanks as always to our producer, Mike Yarostowski, for making us look good and sound good. Happy betting this weekend, everybody. We'll see you back next Friday, and we will see you also on our Saturday live post-game show, 11 p.m. Eastern. Landis will be at the Indiana-Michigan game this week. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be at the Ohio State-Purdue game, and then we'll come back and talk about a bunch of stuff that happened on Saturday. He's Tyler Shoemaker. I'm Doug Lesmerises, and that was Bets of the North.